What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and yes, it's possible the Big 12, a team out of the Big 12, could make the college football playoff this year. Didn't think that there was any chance of that happening. Every Big 12 team has at least 2 losses. The conference has some bad out-of-conference losses early in the year. Iowa State, a top 10 team, lost to Louisiana out of the conference. So there are a lot of things that made you think the Big 12 has no chance at the college football playoff. But as we get down to the end of the season, I'm going to give you a path that could get Iowa State or Oklahoma, whoever wins the Big 12, into the college football playoff. And it's going to take a lot. It will be, it will take chaos, but it could happen. And I don't think it's too crazy to think about this scenario playing out. So we go with our first thing that needs to happen here. It's obviously Oklahoma, Iowa State, whoever wins the Big 12. They got to win out. You can't lose a regular season game and then win the Big 12 championship. You got to be there with 2 losses. Got to win your final regular season games, win the Big 12 championship game, and that's going to put a team in position to at least be in that discussion. Right now Iowa State is in the top 10. Oklahoma's right there. They're not that far behind, even with the 2 losses. So that's the first thing that's got to happen. And if that happens, I believe these 2 teams will be out of the way. I think Georgia and Indiana, I think Iowa State and Oklahoma both, or whoever the team would be, would pass on that championship weekend. They would pass Georgia, and they're already ahead of Indiana, so I don't think you really have to worry about Indiana. There's a thought that the Hoosiers could get into the Big 12 championship or Big 10 championship game if Ohio State can't play another game. Even if they win the Big 10, I don't think that's enough. A win over a Northwestern team is going to be okay, but it's not going to be enough when they're already behind Iowa State and Oklahoma. These 2 teams just playing a lot more games, and I think the committee would have that Big 12 champ ahead of Indiana in that scenario. So they would not have to worry about Georgia or Indiana, but as you can see, there's a lot of other teams here that you got to worry about if you're the Big 12. So the next thing you need is Notre Dame and Alabama to win out, and you need them to win big in their conference championship games. I think there's a scenario, especially with Clemson, where if Clemson were to lose a close game to Notre Dame, they would still be ranked ahead of an Iowa State or an Oklahoma. Florida, maybe not. But I think just to be safe, you'd like for Alabama to win that game easily and knock Florida down enough to where you can get ahead of the Gators. So you need Notre Dame and Alabama to win the rest of their games, win their conference championship games, and preferably win those games big, especially Notre Dame, because like I said, I think Clemson could be a problem. Clemson could stay at number 4. We know the committee loves this team. You would think 2 losses, though, would knock Clemson out. I don't know. We'd have to wait and see if that did happen. But for sure, you got to have these 2 teams win out. And if you do that, then that's going to eliminate Clemson. That's going to eliminate Miami because Miami, then their only path is to win the ACC championship. It's going to eliminate Florida if they lose to Alabama. So you've got 5 teams not in the Big 12. So we're talking about 7 teams here. So 5 teams, 6 teams if you count the Big 12 as 1 team. 6 teams, 4 spots. How do you crack that top 4? Well, the next thing that these 2 teams are going to need, they're going to need Cincinnati and Texas A&M to lose. A&M needs to lose to Auburn. Cincinnati needs to lose to anyone. And really, I don't know for sure if you need Cincinnati to lose. If Cincinnati is just not all that impressive down the stretch, I could even see a 2-loss Big 12 champ passing Cincinnati. I don't think that would be right. But based off of what the committee has done in the past and the way they view the group of 5 teams, it's possible. It's possible because you look at, for example, Iowa State, or let's just go to Oklahoma. They would have a top 10 win over Iowa State here at the end of the season. Cincinnati would have maybe a couple of wins over Tulsa, which are solid wins, but they're not the same. Plus, you'd have a Power 5 conference champion. I mean, there is definitely going to be a discussion there where Iowa State or Oklahoma could potentially pass Cincinnati, even if Cincinnati's undefeated. But to be safe, you need Cincinnati to lose. I think you definitely need Texas A&M to lose. I do not see a 2-loss Big 12 champ passing a 1-loss Texas A&M. No chance of that happening. So, yeah, you need these 2 teams to lose. And if they do lose, there you go. There's a spot opened up. You got Alabama, Notre Dame, Ohio State, and then the winner of the Big 12, whether it's Iowa State or Oklahoma, whichever team wins the Big 12 with 2 losses would then move into the college football playoff, into that number 4 spot. that seems like a lot. I think the hardest thing may be for Clemson to get blown out by Notre Dame. I just don't see that happening. There's a chance though that the committee is still going to say, look, Clemson's had 2 shots at Notre Dame. Why would we potentially give them a 3rd shot? Let's put a team out of the Big 12 up there. You know, they could potentially go that route. What if Ohio State were to get upset? That could open up a spot. I believe a 2-loss Big 12 champ would be in over a 1-loss Ohio State, just because the resume is not going to be there for the Buckeyes. They just don't play enough games. So there is a chance that that could happen. But if it's a loss to Northwestern, then all of a sudden you got to worry about Northwestern passing Oklahoma and Iowa State. If they were to beat Ohio State, get a huge upset in the Big Ten championship game, then you got to worry about Northwestern coming from behind. But and that's something I don't guess I put on that list. But you also do want Ohio State to win out. You want Ohio State to win the Big Ten, or you want complete chaos in the Big Ten to where, you know, Indiana wins it or something like that. So this is the path for these 2 teams. I think there's one more thing you got to watch out for, and that's going to be the number 4 thing. You need to win impressive enough in the final games to hold off BYU. If BYU blows out Coastal Carolina this weekend, you get a pretty good win on the resume if you're the Cougars. Maybe they even have another game they reschedule somewhere to where they could play someone else that's pretty good. And if they're really impressive down the stretch and they're undefeated, and Iowa State or Oklahoma, they're just barely squeaking by these final games, there is absolutely a chance that BYU could pass these 2 teams. I think it's unlikely, and again, I think BYU would need to look really, really good, and I think you would need Oklahoma and Iowa State both to just barely win their final games for that to happen. But it could happen, and if we didn't do a video for BYU, but if you want to know the path for BYU, that's it. You need to have everything happen here that we need to happen for the Big 12, and then you need to look really impressive. Probably need to schedule another opponent on Championship Saturday, a good team. Going to need all that to happen, and you're going to need to look really good in your final games if you're BYU. And again, you need the Big 12 to probably struggle. Whoever wins in the Big 12 needs to struggle to win their final games. But again, this is the path for the Big 12. It's not going to happen. I'll go ahead and tell you right now, I would be shocked if this happened, but it's possible. It's not, I wouldn't say it's a 0. I don't know if I would say it's a 1% chance, but it's less than 5. It's less than a 5% chance, in my opinion, of this happening. But it's a crazy year. 2020 has been a crazy year. Maybe we see a crazy playoff scenario play out here down the stretch. What do you guys think about it? Do you think there's another path for the Big 12 to possibly get in? Or maybe even with my scenario, you still don't think a Big 12 team gets in? Give me your thoughts down in the comments below. Thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned for more here on the SG1 Sports College Football Channel.